All right, everybody, we should be live for our weekly show, the Safe Extreme Podcast, here on Game Wisdom, where each week we discuss game design and industry topics. Joining me is my co-host from Nexus Games, Sharky. How are you doing?
Last week was bad. This week could be arguably worse.
Each week that seems to be the answer.
Yeah, it does for the last 4 weeks. I mean, first week was second week was this is getting bad. Oh, this is next week it's this is really bad, and then this week this is pretty dang horrible. It's like this slow spiral down. Well, more like a fast spiral down to the bottom at this rate. But I will recover because I will not give up until I do. No matter how much it makes me suffer. Too bad I'm not a masochist like you and enjoy the suffering, because I would be absolutely enjoying it.
Yep, definitely. All right, but yeah, it's been yet another whirlwind week here. And let's see, for me, I finally figured out that Game Wisdom, the contact us form wasn't working, and I fixed that. Within a day, we got about 50 spam messages. So I just finally found the CAPTCHA, so hopefully that will cut that down. Hopefully people will be able to respond to me on Game Wisdom or on Discord or Twitter.
Thanks, Brats. It's not a physical illness. It's game dev illness. Stuff going wrong in game dev. Which is, always been a thing, with me especially.
And for our main topic tonight, we're going to be talking about something that is something of interest to Shark, as well as any developer out there working on a multiplayer or live service game. And that's how do you keep growing a fan base or a player base for a title? As this is very important if you want to have a multiplayer game.
And this is linking to our topic from last week, which is the reason why we're covering it this week. We actually got 3 topics last week that linked to last week's kind of thing, and this was the one that Josh picked as the one to do this week.
Because it is a very important one, especially with a lot of developers still pushing towards live service. On my thumbnail, of course, I have stuff like Among Us, Fall Guys, and Fortnite on there. And it is something that you need to consider, because if you don't, it can basically crush your game, especially crush it if you get a shot in the arm or a major boost.
And one of the biggest ways to crush your multiplayer game is player base. There's many things revolving around the player base that will absolutely kill your game. Or never bring it to life to begin with, because, you can release a game on Steam, that's a single player game, and have it flop and whatnot, and, you still sell, 100, 200 copies, which is still probably a major loss of money, but at least you got something. You do the same thing in a multiplayer game, and you didn't make a red cent. Not unless it was not a paid purchase. Well, even if it's a paid purchase, you didn't make it any sense, because all of them refunded. You just didn't make anything. Even if it was free to play, it doesn't matter what model you're using. You didn't make anything because the people who paid for it refunded it. If nobody paid for it, if it was free to play, then nobody bought anything within it because nobody could get a match because there wasn't enough players.
Mm-hmm. And it is very hard for a lot of these games in order to keep that momentum going. And this is a topic that hits a lot of different aspects. And something tells me we probably won't be hitting everything in our hour and a half to 2 hour long talk tonight.
Yeah, I mean this was a pretty massive topic, and I would say, like, this is one that I've been, researching and everything, but I do not know all the answers. I do not even know the beginning of it. Well, I know the beginning of some of the answers, but like I don't have the end all be all knowledge on this kind of thing, and neither does Josh, but like I think we have some stuff that can definitely, enough knowledge to fill up 2 hours worth of cast and then some kind of thing. So like even if we did know everything, I don't think we could get it all in this video. But think of this as just a rough starter's guide to expanding your knowledge, kind of thing.
Yeah. So, to get things going here, what we're talking about again is the content updates you need to keep a player base going. Because we're not talking about reviews. This is one of those cases where it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you do this stuff right, you're going to get people to stay. They're going to like your game. They're going to keep giving it positive reviews, so more people will come in and check it. If you don't do this right, they're going to leave. They're going to say your game is dead. It's going to get downvoted. And then if somebody new shows up, they're going to say, oh, this game has 1 out of 10. Why should I even try playing it?
Mm-hmm. And that player base is going to, potentially shoot yourself in the foot. There's so many ways, Not only do you have to keep them happy, kind of thing, as of, the stuff you implement, kind of thing. One bad update can really, really potentially kill you,
Mm-hmm.
If like say you're doing a card game kind of thing, and you do one set, everybody loves it. Do the second set, everybody loves it. Do the third set, everybody loves it. Do the fourth set, everybody hates it. You may not get a fifth set.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, that very thing happened to a physical card game called Dot Hack, one of my favorite games of all time, that I was 7th in the world ranking on. But what happened with that is it could have had a fifth set, but the main reason why it didn't have its fifth set is because it was spreading itself so thinly, putting out other games beside it, and all those other games were failing. So when that fourth set failed, they had no money to do a fifth set. Not to mention, if they did, they were going to be on an uphill battle for that fifth set, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
A very uphill battle. So, like, they, like, they didn't have anything to weather the bad stuff to come if there was going to be a bad thing. And there was in the fourth set, And that sunk the whole company. Not just that one game, but like 20 games or something that they had.
And it sounds very similar to Overkill, with kind of the rise and fall of Payday, and how the amount of money Payday brought in allowed them to weather the storm, but they kept putting out bad after bad after bad game and horrible investments. And the thing is, a really great game doesn't mean infinite money. And what ended up happening is that even though Payday 2 was one of their most successful games, they still, I think, went bankrupt. I think they filed for bankruptcy.
Yeah. I mean, to Board Fans' point, it didn't go down in flames. What happened is basically they counted on the Dot Hack game for money, and then they used all that money for other games, kind of thing. So there was nothing left, and they even went into debt, expecting to automatically make money with the next set, and the next set didn't make money. It probably lost a little bit of money and or broke even kind of thing. But breaking even and losing money does not pay the debt that you took out on loans kind of thing. And then they had no money to do a fifth set. They had no money to do anything at that point except for file bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
and that's the.
It was a CCG, Breath Tale.
Yeah. It was an anime too.
Yeah, but that was completely different because that was I'm referring to the card game that was made by Decipher. You know, the anime was made by somebody else, and the games were made by somebody else. But Decipher was a card game company that I don't know if Dot Hack was their first card game or the first one that became popular, but it was something like that.
Mm-hmm. And hey, Mike, and like we're saying, the reason why people do this is that there's a ton of money as potential up for grabs if your game blows up. Again, Fortnite didn't. Fortnite is very poor right now, right? They didn't make a lot of money.
No, they didn't make a single cent.
No,
They never.
Or World of Warcraft.
No, what is that? I've never heard of that.
Do you have a phone?
No, I don't. I mean, I have this device that sort of like flips open and you speak into it and say hello, but I don't have a phone.
But again, for a lot of developers, the pros outweigh the cons when it comes to making a live service or ongoing game. This is what led to the MMO boom of the mid-thousands and the MMO bust, I think, a few years later. And what developers have found is that it is very hard to retain and grow a player base. Because guess what? When your game is out, there's several dozen or now probably several hundred games all vying for their time. Just as on the PC, with there being several dozen games being released daily, if you're on mobile, you're probably getting a few of those as well. And the important thing to understand is that quality doesn't really matter in this aspect. It's just the more games are trying to get attention, they're going to take it away from yours. And when somebody does stumble upon your game, you only have a few seconds of them looking at your store page or your review or whatever to get them to even consider the possibility of downloading your game to maybe try it for a few minutes.
Or even just, a few seconds to get, the 5-10 seconds into your trailer.
Mm-hmm.
As we talk about in our Indie Inquiry show.
Yep. So, the first thing, and this is a question that I want to ask you, Shark, I want to ask the audience watching live or recorded. Not withstanding reviews, what is the first thing you look at when you're looking at a new multiplayer or live service game to convince you to maybe try it or maybe download it for a little bit?
It's a good question. I think it varies. Because I know, like theme matters. I mean, if there is a license behind it, the business model is something I look at from the beginning to see if I'm going to say no to it, kind of thing, before I even debate whether I'm going to say yes. The aesthetics, because we never harp on that. The aesthetics is an important one that I look at, and yeah, and then after all that, then I look into what's the gameplay loop kind of thing. Gameplay loop is probably like fourth down on the list.
I think another aspect that people are paying more and more attention to these days is what content updates are out there. What is going on with this game right now? Because if you want people to keep, if you want people to keep coming into a game, How do you keep growing your audience? I don't know. I think that's just dumb luck, right, Sale? For me. But if you want people to look at your game, they need to know that your game is not on life support. And that in of itself could very well be another design topic for this show or for one of my videos. Because one thing this is where we talk about that self-fulfilling prophecy. That once people start leaving, there won't be a community of people. And if there's not a community of people, then somebody joining will not be able to find a game. They're not able to find a game, as Shark said a few minutes ago, they're going to refund it. And this downward spiral has killed countless MMO, multiplayer, or live service games. One of the big examples I remember was Evolve. That, we're talking about Back 4 Blood right now, and I know Turtle Rock is probably very nervous about what is going on with, what's going to happen with that game following its release. Because, again, Evolve was looking to be a sure thing, and it didn't really work out for them.
Yeah, and...
Oh, I closed my door. There we go.
And, player base and retaining that player base is very, very key. And continuing to grow that player base is very key. But, I mean, you can only grow a player base to a certain level. Every game has, like, a cap that, that is unable to be seen, kind of thing. And that cap can change over time, but there's still a cap kind of thing. And if you hit that cap, you will stop growing. And the best you can do is retain at that point. Retain and keep retaining. And by retaining, we don't mean just keeping everybody that exists there. That means, trying to do that, as well as bringing in new people to replace the old people that leave, kind of thing. You're retaining the numbers. You're not retaining the exact number of players.
If let's say in February you have 100,000 people playing your game, when it comes to March, you better not be down to 50,000 people or staying at 100,000.
Or unless you hit your cap, and you don't want to hit your cap.
Yeah, and as Rat's Tail said in chat, churn is a huge point about this topic. It's something I've spoken with Ramin about many times when it comes to live service games. Because you'll see developers, shout their numbers whenever there's a high spike in their player base. Oh, I have 200,000 people playing my game for the week of, the second week of January of 2020. And then they say nothing the week later or the month later. Because guess what? Those 200,000 people, maybe 180,000 of them are gone now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a case of most games because game dev as a total is like you see like a hockey stick pattern kind of thing, with the, rise and fall kind of thing. And basically the spikes, the high side is when you just release something, whether it's a brand new game or brand new update kind of thing. And then it vastly drops off and then tapers out slowly after that kind of thing. As long as but depending on the things you do kind of thing, that drop can be more so than others. And if you drop so low kind of thing, then you're going to cause another drop and another drop.
And again, it's important to clarify for people watching us, we are ignoring single player games for this episode. We're not talking about, even if you have ongoing content, like something like The Witcher, Cyberpunk, a season pass, whatever, we're ignoring that. We are talking about games that live and die based, again, on the strength and continued retention of its player base.
Well, Cyberpunk is supposed to be multiplayer too, but that would be... Yeah, that's the reason why they've gone with the very much GTA kind of thing, because they're going after the shark bucks or whatever it is. The most
save
OP bucks
for another day.
But we're talking about exclusive multiplayer games, because the fact is, unless you're AAA, you shouldn't be building a game that is both multiplayer and single player.
Oh yes.
It should be
And
either multiplayer only or single player only, unless it is just a secondary system that didn't take much to do.
mm-hmm. And that's another big point as well. If you invest too much into both systems, that can actually hurt your game as well. Because if you're begging and hoping for people to play your multiplayer, but they're all focused on your single player because that's so good, well, you just killed your multiplayer community.
Yeah, that's exactly the reason why my current game, Neon Continuum, apparently the new word of the day, because I don't say chromasia anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, what I did was everybody's asking for a multiplayer. What about if we don't have enough players to play multiplayer? Why don't we have a single player campaign? And I'm like, no, we can't have a single player campaign just because of that exact fact. Because if we have a multiplayer that, let's say we have, I don't know, let's just go with a low number, but we'll, so that it's easy math wise, but this is not a sustainable number. Let's just say 1,000 people, right? If we have 1,000 players, kind of thing, and we have a single multiplayer only, then these 1,000 people are going to be playing the multiplayer. If it's only single player, these 1,000 people are going to be playing your single player. If it is single and multiplayer, then they're going to be divided between, kind of thing. And if there's 500 on the multiplayer and 500 in the single player, but those 500 multiplayer, because there's only 500 of them, have to wait like an hour and a half to find a match, kind of thing, then they're not going to play multiplayer anymore, and they're either going to quit the game completely, or they're going to go over to the single player. So you end up, instead of having 1,000 people, you end up having maybe 600 people playing single player and nobody on the multiplayer, and you just screwed yourself out of about 400 plus players, kind of thing.
Yep.
And made every bit of work you did on that multiplayer useless, kind of thing. So you need to, if you're going to do multiplayer, absolutely 100% focus on the multiplayer. That's what I'm doing.
Focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
And to board fans comment exactly that. Yes, you can do that if you have millions upon millions of people playing your game, and there's just so much of a surge of players, you never have to worry about matchmaking.
Yeah.
But most likely, if you're watching this video right now, you don't have a Blizzard fan base, and you won't be able to rely on that.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely potential that I may have a Blizzard-sized fan base after I release it. But the fact is I don't know that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I could guess it. I could figure it. But, doing anything taking any actions along that, if I'm not 100% right, I just, completely screwed up everything. So it is insanely risky kind of thing. And it's more work.
Mm-hmm.
It's less work to be safe.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually a really good segue into this next point. Continued content. Because a major point about what keeps your fan base going and what keeps it growing, people need to see stuff being done. And when we say stuff, we're not talking about cosmetics. We are talking about new content. We're talking about something that's going to get people excited about your game. Because if your game doesn't have it, once again, we enter that downward spiral. People are going to leave. You'll still have your hardcore faithful. But guess what? They're not the pool for new players. Because you know what's going to happen when a new player joins a game? They're going to get utterly crushed by those hardcore players.
Unless you put stuff in there to make them not get crushed. And that is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, then you made it where you can't retain players.
Yeah. Ramin has said this. So there are games that treat their new player base as bait. They are just simply the bait for the hardcore players to kill them.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, this is going to be really painful for me, but, I know that CCG games as a whole, CCGs, the way that consumers expect content from them is every 3 months they expect to have a new set of cards. And if you don't have a new set of cards every 3 months, then you better have it shortly after, because if you don't, you're going to burn your player base.
Yep, and this is a major point that we're seeing with Among Us right now. That Among Us, again, as we've said, had a very big surge back in August and September of last year. And it has been followed up with nothing. Absolutely nothing has been done content-wise for that game since I'm not even sure when they last had a major update. And again, when we talk about content in this regard, cosmetics don't matter. Cosmetics are a major part of your game, yes, but we're talking about something for the player base to experience. Yes, they've said that they are working on a new map, but it is not out yet. And again, people don't want to hear about your amazing thing coming in 6 years. They want to see it in game.
Yeah, and they have put out many updates, kind of thing, but they haven't been content updates.
Mm-hmm.
They've been monetization updates. They've been, all kinds of other updates, bug fixes, and all this other stuff, which remains a lot of bugs in that game. Not bad bugs, but or not. I don't even know how to describe them. They're both they're safely extreme bugs. They're both not gameplay breaking and gameplay breaking kind of thing. To where, like, there's a bug that while it has no effect on the core gameplay loop kind of thing of an animation playing or not playing kind of thing, it does have a gameplay effect when you come to the social side of it, because it only affects imposters, and people know that if they see you get that bug, you're an imposter.
Yeah. So here's a bit of a fun fact. The last actual content update to Among Us was November of 2019. That was the last time they actually put out something new, it seems. And that is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And to Rat's comment there about some are receiving more attention than they deserve, or I'm sorry, more than they can handle, yes, that's a very big point. Because it's very much that case of being handed the winning winning pass in football, and you just, fumble it at the last second.
Yeah, I'm worried about that myself.
Mm-hmm.
Getting that winning pass, and I'm preparing myself as much as I can to catch it and run. But like, it's hard. I mean, if you're throwing that golden pass and everything, you have to be on your A game.
Mm-hmm.
You need to really be on your A game before you get that pass. You need to expect that pass can happen, and since you're expecting it to be a possibility, you're already on your A game kind of thing.
Yeah.
You've already got, you already you release the game, and all of a sudden it blows up kind of thing. Don't be shocked, Also, don't be shocked when nobody plays it kind of thing. But you need to be prepared both ways. You need to have answers already in line for all feasible possibilities. And when I say feasible, I mean pretty much anything that can happen within the realms of the platform you're posting it on. If you're posting on itch, don't you don't have to prepare very much, because you're not going to be able to experience very much. But if you're releasing on Steam, you can expect absolutely nothing, and you can also expect millions on millions and millions and millions of players. If you're releasing on a console, same thing. Could be nothing, could be millions and millions and millions, kind of thing. Yeah. If you're on itch, it could be 0, or it could be like what, 300.
Yeah, it really depends. And again, with something like Among Us, I still think that they made a huge mistake with canceling their sequel with Among Us 2.
I don't necessarily think it's a mistake. I think what the, I think what they're doing, but I could be wrong, is just releasing Among Us 2 as a Among Us 1 update, which is the reason why it's taking so long to get it to us, kind of thing.
But I just feel like a sequel would have been able to maintain that interest a lot more than just saying, here's patch 1.765,
Oh
here's
yeah,
patch 1.80.
yeah. But the thing is they can't get that out fast.
Yeah. And again, that is actually a really good point about this. That if you want to retain and grow your player base, you need to have consistent content. Because if people are getting bored with your game, they're going to stop playing it.
And once they stop playing it, your player numbers dive, and then once your player numbers dive, then other people can't find matches, which cause them to dive out, which then cause other people to not be able to find matches, and it's this domino. You hit that first domino kind of thing, and it starts knocking over domino after domino after domino after domino. And unless you do something, unless you put a block there that will stop the dominoes from falling and allow you to start setting them back up, kind of thing, unless you do something like that, all your dominoes are going to fall.
I think we're attacking Rat's Tail today. Yeah. And again, this is the scary part. This is the con of when you're thinking about a live service game. That at the same time you're developing your game, you need to be thinking about what my long-term support is going to look like. Because you do not want to wait until launch week to decide, okay, so when's our next update going to come?
Yeah, I know. With my current game, I have anxiety over it too, Rats. And I think it's a proper place to have anxiety about, because if you don't, then you're not preparing properly. But what I did is I am absolutely focused on the first set, but I'm also thinking ahead on what can I do for future sets, kind of thing. I'm not specifically doing anything for it other than some planning, basically. It's like, I'm talking to my artist and I'm like, once we get this thing out, I would like you to stay on to continue going forward with new sets if we're able to, kind of thing. Same thing with my programmer and everything else. Like, I'm trying to get people to, be like, okay, so this isn't just a one and done thing. There is a potential life to it, and I'm trying to prepare them to go forward. Also, like, I was looking at some card stats, and I was like, I was looking at it, and like everything that I had set up was set up to only be in one city, kind of thing, which would really limit the pool of characters that we could draw from. It would really limit the storylines that we could draw from, and all these limitations would limit the lifespan of the game, kind of thing. Because like I go forward and it's like, yeah, I can only do I don't know, 5 sets out of this one city, kind of thing, and then I'm done. What do I do then, kind of thing. So that's when I came up with a new mechanic that actually tied in to where there's more than one city, kind of thing. And each city has not only a unique storyline, but a unique culture, kind of thing, to where, maybe this deck type is a good guy and very, very different in one city, and a bad guy and very, very different in the other city. Like my first city, the cyberpunk characters are more like hackers, kind of thing. They're hacking, infiltrating, kind of thing. They have some upgrades to them, but that, nothing like, big generally, kind of thing. I mean, they may have a full body thing, but they're not like big, they're still human size. But then, what I thinking for my second city is that the cyberpunk is going to be villains, kind of thing. They're literally street punks that were recruited by corporations who just completely modified and weaponized the heck out of them. So they're this big, giant, bulking hulks, kind of thing, and they're like, basically tanks in human form, kind of thing. And yeah, it's a completely different thing. It's going to cause a completely different dichotomy in that city versus the other city, kind of thing. And it opens up so many storytelling possibilities for me between them, which having so many storytelling and setting possibilities, kind of thing, then that opens up
More content.
yeah, more content that I can make coming out in the future, because not only can I tell, like, 5 stories in this city, but I can tell 5 more in this one, 5 more in this one, 5 more in this one, 5 more in this one. And because I have all these sources, kind of thing, that doesn't mean they can't cross and create other stories, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Marvel, making a Iron Man comic and then making a Spider-Man comic and making a Captain America comic and a Thor
Mm-hmm.
comic, and then eventually making an Avengers comic by bringing all together, kind of thing. Like,
And
there's just so much potential.
yeah, and again, this is what you need to be considering when it comes to content with your game. And what you said a few minutes ago about every 3 months having a new card set, I would say for other games like shooters, action games, whatever, you should be having new content. I would say between 1 to 2 months, because people are going to churn through that fast.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest mistakes developers make is thinking, "Oh, it took me 6 months to design this. I'm sure it will take people 6 months to play through it." No, they'll probably get through it in 2 days.
Yep. As
And this is
for Rastel point, like, getting all the sets ready in the wings, probably not a good idea, because that's going to take workload for me and everybody else and money, kind of thing, to develop. And it may not even be needed, kind of thing. And it's slowing down the initial set that
mm-hmm.
is the only set that matters, and it could cause the game to release at a time when it would fail, rather than when it would succeed by getting it out sooner, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be aware again of what rate that you can actually put out new content for. And this is something I see from a lot of mobile and free to play games, is that the ones that end up genuinely doing well are going to keep putting out new content. Especially like for mobile games, in particular, if your game is free to play and you have that high level of churn and people coming in, there should be content almost weekly, maybe bi-weekly, in terms of an update to your game. Because
Yeah,
you
and
because they're
every game has like a different rate, kind of thing, that you should be putting out. And basically, based on when you put that out there, depends on how big it should be, kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
Like a CCG that releases 100 something cards, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, that's every 3 months, kind of thing. You want more updates than that, but you want like a big one every 3 months, kind of thing, with that kind of thing. You want to run events in between, kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
But you want to, it's these little peaks of excitement, hey, this is this new thing, this is this new thing, but here's the whole new set that completely changes everything, kind of thing. Where,
And
with a first person shooter or something, you want to, release a big enough update every so often, kind of thing. Maybe like if you're going monthly, kind of thing, maybe not so massive. Maybe, like a new map and a couple new other things, kind of thing. But if you're going every 2 maps, you want to release, 2 maps and a bunch of other things, kind of thing.
yeah, and I think in this case, it's better to go for consistency as opposed to just bombs. As in, I will not release anything for 6 months, but then that 6 month update, oh my god, it will be amazing.
Oh yeah,
Because what's
you
going to
never want to go 6 months.
yeah, because what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to leave in that 6 months, and then guess what? The people who stay around will be like, "Yay, that's great," but now there's only 25% of us left.
Yeah. You absolutely never want to go 6 months. I think the longest time you want to go is 3 months.
Yeah.
And
And that may
even
be
that's
pushing
long,
it. Yeah.
but it's the correct timing for a card set in a CCG, kind of thing, because those things are not small, kind of thing, and people expect them on that kind of time basis, kind of thing.
Yeah. But for other genres, it's going to be a different time frame.
Mm-hmm.
And what Shark said a few minutes ago about having events and stuff like that, that's another big point. Because an event is essentially a way of having user-generated content. Throw out some special thing where people compete with each other for maybe like an exclusive skin or, a fancy medal on their profile. And, well, that's the problem right there, Rats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need a team. The answer is money. That's the common answer for a lot of these games.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it's why a lot of indie developers struggle. Because if you're thinking, hey, me and my 5 friends can, compete with Team Fortress or Fortnite for, $500, that ain't happening.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'm building my game on a very, very extremely, insanely low budget kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot more than $500. It's, at this point, like, if you assume all my roles get finished and paid, it's it's like $4,000, which is extremely cheap. And keep in mind that includes nothing on the business side of things, and I'm probably looking at like $5,000-6,000 there.
Yeah, and here's to really scare Rat's tail here. When we look at games that are successful, Fortnite, Warframe, like they are putting out updates and content almost every 2 weeks. Again, is it expansion level content? No, but it's consistent content, and that's what matters to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And I think Clay Entertainment, did a very good thing along those lines. Even though it's not a multiplayer game, Oxygen Not Included has had a countdown timer that said the next update is coming when. And it has a countdown timer, live countdown timer that shows you exactly when it's coming, kind of thing. They don't tell you what's going to be in it for obvious reasons, because they may not be able to get everything in it in that time, but they're going to post something on that day, except for one day where they one time they were late and they delayed it by like a month or something like that. But they absolutely just went after it, and that was a very good thing to do in early access. And it's a have to thing if you're doing a multiplayer game kind of thing. Well, you don't need an artist that can produce that fast. You need a team of artists kind of thing. See, like right now, I'm just trying to get a artist to do my art kind of thing, and then retain them for the next set. And then I am going to hire, if I can, a lot more artists after we release kind of thing. Mm. And I may put up the hiring post before we even release the game kind of thing.
Yeah. Because you need to have your ducks in a row when it comes to these games. This is the issue, again, that befell Among Us, that they got caught, completely by surprise about the amount of success the game had for those 2 months. And as we've said, consistency and momentum are key when it comes to keeping and retaining or keeping and growing a fan base. Because it is very much that positive or negative feedback. There's a reason why the games that succeed, they succeed really well. And the games that fail
really hard.
Into the iceberg of Titanic.
Yeah, and I get you, Rastel, because budget is a very big thing with me. Because, like, you wouldn't think it from me talking about paying people over $4,000 kind of thing. But, I make, outside of, my game dev stuff, which is at this point only cost and not making anything. Mm-hmm. It's only expenses. But, my normal day-to-day income kind of thing is $700 a month. And I have a lot of bills kind of thing. I have to pay my rent, electricity, all that, phone, all that kind of stuff, internet. And there's only a few pennies left at the end of the month. But I save up those pennies, and I save them hard, and I get a little bit of money here and there. You know, instead of going out and getting me a pizza, one day a week kind of thing for every week kind of thing, instead of getting 4 pizzas a month kind of thing, I just, either go without pizza or go with one pizza kind of thing. And, that's $15 to $20 I save that month kind of thing. Maybe even 20 or 25 kind of thing, depending on what pizzas I'm getting. And, I sacrifice, cut I cut everything I can basically to get money so I can continue my development kind of thing. Like I am cutting down my quality of life by significant folds, which my quality of life was already really low at $700 a month, but I'm cutting it lower kind of thing just to be able to get the money that I need to get the game dev stuff I need to do. And yes, pineapple on pizza is great. Pineapple, pineapple, pepperoni, and onion, best pizza ever. I promise you, because it has the savory from the pepperoni, it has the sweet slash tangy from the onion, and it has the sweet slash fruity from the pineapple. And it's all those flavors, and then you combine that with the cheese and get the cheesiness and the bread, and you have like all your flavors kind of thing all put together, and it's this one perfect package.
Now, one of the getting off of pizza for a minute.
Can't get off pizza. This is the Safely Extreme Pizza Cast.
There we go. Where's Chow? He's supposed to be cooking for us. He's supposed to be the caterer here. But when we look at these games, again, content comes in different forms. It can be simply an event, such as, just throw out, a limited time event of one map, maybe even just have a Christmas theme map. This is where seasonal updates usually work really well. You can have your summer contest, your winter contest, your New Year's. And there's a reason why games like to do this, because it's essentially content that they can just recycle every year. Mm-hmm. And as with what Shark said, you have to be very economical with how you apply your content.
Especially as an indie.
Yep. You can think about, I'm going to think about the next 5 years of what I want to put into this game.
Mm-mm.
But you want to be focused on what you can do right now. You need to have a plan. You don't need to build it while you're still building the other thing.
Yeah, I don't even think you want to even plan 5 years in advance, because that sounds like a plan for failure kind of thing. Like, I think at the longest point you want to even think about is a year in advance.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I would put very, very little thought into anything past like 3 months into the future.
Yeah. Well, just be like the Avengers, and then we'll be set. There you go, Shark. There's your strategy.
Well, I've already got a strategy like that.
Mm-hmm. But again, the important thing is, if you are building a game like this, you have to be able to tell somebody what's next. Because if somebody says, okay, I build your content, what you have planned, and you go, I don't know, guess what? They're going to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And they will most likely not be coming back. And this is the thing that a lot of indie developers tend to fail to grasp. That the games that work well, the mobile games, the free-to-play ones, your live service, they are explicitly designed around daily content. They want you to be thinking about this game day in and day out. Because if you stop thinking about it, you're going to stop playing it. And when that happens, you're going to move on to somebody else's game. And when you're done with that, you're going to move on to something else.
Mm-hmm. And you've got to keep them, or else you're not retaining players. And you can never 100% retain everybody that you get kind of thing. But what you can retain 100% is the numbers. Although you don't want to just retain, you want to grow on top of that. But the thing is the point where you stop growing kind of thing and can't not able to grow anymore, that's where you get to your cap kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And every game has its own cap kind of thing. And the caps can change. And the fact is ideally you want to actually reach your cap, but at the same time, you don't want to reach that cap unless that cap is insanely high, like the population of the Earth high kind of thing. You want to raise your cap as much as you can, and if you can eventually raise your cap to the population of the world kind of thing, then I mean that's the best cap you can ever get. And if you can hit that cap, then everybody in the world is playing your game, and you know you're the richest person ever to live, kind of thing, probably.
Yeah, and this is one of those things about, like, when we look at the Battle Royale genre as an example, how PUBG really dropped the ball compared to Fortnite. That when PUBG was in its heyday, there was no new content coming. Okay, we had, new hats, some new cosmetics, yes, but it took them a very long time to create a new map or to add some new events to that game. Whereas Fortnite came out, and again, like almost from day one, they were doing bi-weekly content. And again, Epic has money. Let's just put it like that. But that is unfortunately the big crux of this issue, that you need to spend money to make money when it comes to these live service games. And if you don't have that base to begin with, you are basically starting, what is it? Like you're starting like 20 minutes behind in a race.
Yeah. That goes for all games, for that matter. You have to spend money to make money. If you don't spend money on getting good aesthetics in your game, then your game is screwed. If you don't spend money on getting a programmer who isn't going to completely bug out your game kind of thing, you're screwed. If you don't spend money to get, a sound guy that doesn't just fart into a mic kind of thing, you're screwed kind of thing.
And PR.
Yeah, if you don't spend money on a marketing person who isn't going to just tweet one thing every month on a Twitter account that has like 2 followers kind of thing, you're not going to get anywhere. You have to spend money to make money. Now then, the way you can save money is by having a proper knowledge that you are one of these people that you would want to hire, kind of thing. Don't save money by being one of these people who you don't want to hire, kind of thing. Only hire yourself when you're good enough that you want to hire yourself, kind of thing. Don't hire yourself for art and you can only draw stick figures, kind of thing. Don't hire yourself for art, don't hire yourself for sound if you can only fart into a mic. Don't hire yourself for programming if Bethesda makes you look like you don't know how to program,
I think you just attacked me with that drawing stick figures. I can't even draw stick figures.
Nobody hired Josh for art.
And don't hire me to do a cross-country transporting with trucks. As we learned from Mud Runner.
Well, you're better at that than any other game that involved a vehicle.
Yeah, that is true. But bring this back on topic. We've talked about content. We've talked about,
pizza.
Making a plan. Yeah, we talked about pizza as well. Pizza is important when it comes to long-term support. But another aspect of this is that people expect you to be constantly updating this game. Wait, what message didn't show up?
I don't think so. Your Be Right Back did, but that's
here. Oh, you said FUD. That message apparently got blocked by YouTube. Man, YouTube's really locking down there.
Yep.
But one of the challenges about these kinds of games is that engaging your community is another important aspect of it. This is, as Shark said, this is why you need a social media manager. You need somebody PR-wise to keep people invested and entertained about your game. More importantly, it's their job to put out any fires that come up on your forums or your message boards. In one of the mobile games that I played, one of the issues people were having is that the developer just went dead quiet for like a month or two. Then maybe they put out like a 10-minute video, and then they stayed quiet for another month or two after that. You don't want that. Like we've said, consistency is key to all of this. That's kind of the mission statement for our cast today. That however you want to plan your game out, you need to be able to plan out that you can consistently keep people updated and keep them interested in your game. And as we've said earlier, like ideally, a month to 2 months. If you're pushing beyond 3 months in terms of content and updates, that's a red flag.
Oh yeah, you can't. 3 months is the absolute limit, and that's exactly where they expect a CCG to be for because a CCG in the end is a expansion kind of thing. It's a full on expansion kind of thing. So it's a lot larger kind of thing versus adding in a few maps or whatever kind of thing. Now then, you that does not mean that's the only thing you can do in 3 months. You still want to run events, and you still want to do all this other stuff in between there, because remember, each thing that you do, whether it's an event or like an expansion or like a couple of maps or whatever it is kind of thing, is going to create this spike in your user base kind of thing. It's going to spike up really high, and then it's going to crash kind of thing. And the more tight you can get these spikes in there, and the higher you can get each one of those spikes, the less people will drop, because they know that something else is coming right after that. So like, like if let's just say that you're going to have a big spike every 3 months kind of thing, people would really spike up. Maybe let's just keep it small numbers. Let's say you go from 100 to 10,000, 10K. And then over a week or so, you drop down to back down to 100 kind of thing, and then it flatlines for the it's slowly dropping off for the next like 3 months, and then you do that big spike again kind of thing, and you just repeat. But like if you put several smaller spikes in between, like this event and that event kind of thing, every like 2 weeks kind of thing, on top of the big spikes kind of thing, then you would see that those big spikes would land on the other, for the giant spike kind of thing, that would raise it up even higher kind of thing. And it would end up being as high or nearly as high as the other one, just with less sustainability. And then it falls, and then before it falls completely, you have the other one. And then you end up with this flat line, your flat line, instead of, at 100 slowly dropping down, it'll be at like 1,000 or 2,000 slowly going up kind of thing, because you keep on building on it, kind of thing. It's like you're pushing a bike or a merry-go-round. Let's go with the merry-go-round that goes around in circles. So if you push it and you give it one good push, and you go around like, let's say 30 revolutions a second, and then you don't touch it again for 30 minutes kind of thing, it's going to be barely rotating. It's going to be just like rotating an inch like every like 2 or 3 seconds kind of thing. It's not going to be fun to ride. But if you get that big boost kind of thing, and then every
5 minutes.
Not even every 5 minutes. Every like minute you go down there and give it one good kick kind of thing, it keeps that momentum up. And it over time, basically what happens is that merry-go-round goes faster and faster and faster and faster, so that your big spikes are building on top of something that's already big, rather than something that's small.
Yep, and to Juan's comment, we are not counting games like Terraria or more single player focused games. We're talking about those that rely on the live service or multiplayer aspect to sustain themselves for our
Yeah.
talk today.
And since we're talking about the indie space, we're talking about basically multiplayer only.
Yeah. Like, for instance, like one of the games I was playing, like the first mobile game that I played was Marvel Strike Force. And the issue that happened with that game compared to some of the other mobile games out there was they were going like 4 weeks to maybe 2 months without any events happening whatsoever. And it was boring the hell out of a lot of people. They were trying to rely on the kind of multiplayer to be user generated content, but in a game like that, it really wasn't enough to keep people excited. Now you compare that to some of the more like Chinese and Japanese based mobile games, and they will have an update usually every week to 2 weeks. And what their more popular option is that they'll have a new gacha banner up every 2 weeks.
Yeah,
And
banners are a big thing in mobile.
And again, some of you may be thinking, well, what's the big deal with that? It's just another way of spending money. But like Shark's analogy with the merry-go-round, those banners keep people interested. It's not as strong as a new content update, but it's enough to keep that momentum going.
Well, it is a new content update because there's new things new content that comes in that banner.
Yeah,
new characters, new weapons, new items, new loot boxes, kind of thing. Generally,
yeah. But again, what ends up happening is that when they do announce that major thing, let's say 1 week it's going to be a brand new story event, or maybe they're on a new gameplay mode, people are already buzzed about all the gacha updates. That they're still excited about this game.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a case like with the analogy of the merry-go-round that, it stopped and then we'll get one major push. Because you're always going to, I think this is another important point to mention, you will always retain a hardcore fan base. There will always be that, 5 to 10% of your people who you cannot do any wrong to them. They will stay with you. They will support you.
I think we call those fanboys.
Yes. But here's the problem. A game made up of nothing but your hardcore fanboy, fangirl base is still a dead game.
Mm-hmm.
And to board fans talking about user-generated content, that is the challenge of it. It's something that Rami and I have spoken about, that user-generated content, it relies on your users. And unfortunately, you're not paying your users to make that content. They're paying you in time, money, or both to stay with your game. So if you are relying entirely on user-generated content and doing nothing to promote or cultivate that, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's failure right there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to put something in, because if you don't put something in, you're not going to get something out.
Yeah, it's something when Rami and I were talking about it with his games that he's developing. He wants his games to be user-generated supported, but he knows, you need to add the fuel to start that fire. And there has to be something there for people to entertain themselves with.
And you have to keep stoking that fire.
Yep.
Because you let that fire go out and the users are going to leave. It's not generating content for you. So you can't depend on user-generated content, because you have to give those users content of their own to have them generate their own.
Yeah. And this is why you have to be very economically minded when it comes to generating content for these kinds of games. Like we've said, if you want to spend a year developing some brand new content for your game, it is far better. Or here, let me rephrase that. Let's say you are spending a year developing content for a game, and that content only has a shelf life of a week. It will be an amazing week of content, then it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
This is why for a lot of multiplayer-based games, they're going to focus on content that supplements itself. So a new gacha character in a mobile game. That is content. It's not as big as designing a brand new gameplay mode, but it's something that it basically stays evergreen. If you've heard that term before, that it's something that can work at any given time. If you design content that can only work one and only time, that's not a good use of your time and money.
Yeah. Now then, if you have this big update that you want to do that could add a lot to the game permanently, kind of thing, then it might be wise to do it, but you do it separately. You keep on, you work on that on the as a separate branch kind of thing with that year worth of content kind of thing. And meanwhile, you keep on updating the other stuff, and you keep on adding new content in other ways kind of thing. So that means having another programmer or another, whatever kind of thing. It means expanding your employee base, because if you don't, if you're slowing down on other stuff kind of thing, then you're hurting your game. You don't want to slow down. You don't want to slow down to get a boost later kind of thing. You have to increase your team size to have a boost come with that new team members later and permanently kind of thing, while still your current team members keeping that momentum going.
Yep, and that again, we need to definitely elaborate on that or expand on that for people watching. When we say develop new content for your game, like a new gameplay mode or a new system, that doesn't mean you stop the other content that's in your game. You have to be developing that concurrently. For instance, with the mobile game Arknights, that I think this was like late last year, they released kind of like a pseudo roguelike mode for the game, like a brand new game system. Well, guess what? For the month that they were developing that, they were still creating new banners and new story content on top of that. Because you don't want, again, the point of this cast or this discussion is momentum. You never want to lose momentum with a live service or a multiplayer-based game, because that's how the churn begins to go hardcore. And once it starts, like the domino analogy, it's very hard to stop it.
If even possible. And here's the thing, is this is important to all multiplayer games, but this is like 5 billion more times important to indie development kind of thing of multiplayer games. You want to have a way to add significant content without taking significant time or resources to make. Time is a resource, time, money, work, all that stuff is resources. Because here's the thing, is not only do you have to turn out content, repeatedly and regularly kind of thing, but if you would like to work on another game and not just have your entire life devoted to this one game kind of thing, you're going to need a way to do it in a low scope way that allows you to, as low a scope as possible while still getting the right amount of ramp in there kind of thing. And, so, the way I've designed my game is basically going forward, besides adding game modes, which, in theory won't take a whole lot because they're it's a card game kind of thing, and it's very light on programming. So it'd just be a different way to place out units, different combat system, stuff like that, which is a harder thing to design than it is to program generally kind of thing. Especially when you already have the baseline already set up kind of thing. And new powers kind of thing. But powers are really easy to put in. You put in new powers every set kind of thing. That's very easy to put in. Writing is going to be pretty difficult because there's going to be a lot of writing for each new set. So, that's a place where scope is not small. It's not massive, but it's not small by any means. And then art is absolutely massive kind of thing. Character art specifically. And background art. But the thing is I can pay somebody to do. I can pay a team artist to render that stuff out, kind of thing. Now, events and stuff, that's again design work and probably art and probably just a smidge of programming, kind of thing. I want to put this item in here. I want to put this card in here. I want to put this thing in here, and it gets these stats, kind of thing. And it's like 3 seconds of programming work, kind of thing.
Mhm.
But like, I've designed it to where basically to do an update for a complete new card set, kind of thing, is going to take a little bit of design work, kind of thing, which, designing new powers and all that stuff, which I've already got this list I've designed in figuring out what the first set card set powers were. And there's some really awesome card powers in there. And the reason why I did not put them in the first set is because they're more complicated. And they also don't exactly fit the best with the theme. So I wanted the simpler stuff that fit the theme best, so that I know the theme and I know the simplicity enough to get new players in and get them hooked, kind of thing. And then I'll do the more complicated stuff that doesn't make as much sense, kind of thing, later when they're wanting more complicated stuff, and they're already so much involved in the lore, they don't get so much disconnected from things, because like it's within the realm of this disbelief, kind of thing, or the realm of belief rather. And and I have a team of artists working separately on this game, and I can hire another artist, whatever, for another game that I'm working on. And
you also, another very important point about this, you want to make sure that, again, your onboarding is on point. And for multiplayer based games, when we say onboarding, we not only mean the tutorial, we mean what the first 5 to 10 hours of your game is going to be like to play. Again, when I've spoken with Ramin about mobile design, there's a reason we say that the first like 14 to 19 days are very important, because you need to make sure that somebody's invested and wants to keep playing your game beyond that. This is where we get to this issue of churn for a lot of free-to-play games. The advantage of a free-to-play game is that there is no barrier of entry. The downside is that there's nothing keeping them from playing, or there's nothing keeping them playing if something annoys them. When we buy a $50 game, we may put it with some jank because we spent money on that. When we play a free-to-play game, something annoys us. What's keeping us playing it? Nothing.
Yeah.
It's when we spoke with Jack. Remember, he said that I've quit mobile games in 5 seconds. That the moment something makes him grumble, he can quit that game, and there is nothing keeping him there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say there's zero barrier to entry in a free to play game. It's world lore though, because there's no money barrier, kind of thing. You still have to, people will go to a free to play game on Steam and see that it's free to download and never hit that button because the store page does not sell them enough. The things they see do not sell them enough. The store, everything we discuss in the indie inquiries, none of that stuff sells them enough to press that button and take up room on their hard drive, internet, and everything else. And, so there's still a barrier to entry, but it's a very, very low bar.
And I would also say one advantage that multiplayer free-to-play games do have over single player is that word of mouth, I think, is a lot stronger for these games. It's also, I think, a lot more popular for YouTubers and streamers to talk about it. There are a lot, and I do mean a lot, of mobile YouTubers who will consistently talk about whatever is the latest mobile game. And they will do anywhere from like 3 to 10 videos, even if that game is bad. They can still put that content out very quickly and get eyes on it. For a single player game, again, it's a lot harder to sell somebody on that.
Yeah. And, it's not only that, but like, when when somebody, suggests a game to you, like I could suggest, Monster Train to Josh kind of thing. And, it costs 15, $20. I don't even remember what it costs, but it costs money.
Yeah.
And Josh is like, well, I'm going to wait and see if I can get press key or, wait and see. And then it was what, 3 months later before you finally started playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, oh God, I love this game. I wish I would have bought it 3 months ago when you told me to. And that barrier of entry stopped him from doing it. But if it was a free to play game kind of thing, and I told him that same thing, he would have just simply hit that download button, had it that night, and been playing it right then and there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
Like,
go ahead.
I was going to say, but not every game can be designed to be free to play, obviously.
Well, I mean, I think every game could, but you have to come up with way different designs than what you have now, kind of thing. Like not every game designed the way that we have it, the current design means could be designed that way, but any design could be adapted to it, I think. But it would take a lot of design work and everything, and it wouldn't be the same game in the end, kind of thing. And that's something you need to be aware of when you're doing free to play is this model the right model for me? Because just because you can doesn't mean it's going to be successful, because you can take a free a paid game like a first person shooter and make it a free to play game, and you could make it work depending on how you design it, and it could also crash horribly because of how you designed it. If you're just doing the same design as the normal, it's probably not going to do so well. And the thing is if you get a little bit too much of anything, if you design it wrong, kind of thing, then it's going to potentially, I mean, even if you design it right, kind of thing, is there an audience for that kind of thing? It's free to play. It's a tactical RPG or whatever game, but does that game now appeal to the same audience? Does it have an audience, kind of thing? And while any game could be adapted to that and done right, kind of thing, it's a matter of question: will it have an audience after you do that? And that's a completely different subject.
And to Rat's comment about benefits of sharing games, I don't think that really applies to what we're talking about in terms of retaining a player base. What do you think, Shar?
Sharing games. You talking about through the Steam
You can
crossplay thing?
send a code to somebody, and they'll you can share a link, and somebody will be able to then download the game or play it if you send it to their email or something.
I'm not
Zynga
sure.
style sharing.
I'm not sure what Zynga does. But according to yours, Josh, like I would, that would be a different kind of multiplayer game. That would be a paid multiplayer game. But if you were to do a multiplayer game that's paid kind of thing, what I would probably do is offer multiple keys for cheap kind of thing. Like you can buy a copy for yourself for $20 kind of thing, but you can get 4 copies so you can play with all your friends for like $40. So basically the price of 2 keys, you get 4 kind of thing, and then you can go out and do that. But it's kind of risky at the same time, because you're opening yourself up to the black market, basically, G2A, basically, in doing that kind of thing.
And again, we've seen multiplayer games that will do just that strategy, that they'll let you buy a 4-pack or a 2-pack, whatever, at a discount cost. Didn't Among Us, if you bought the game, it automatically gave you a free copy?
I don't think so. No.
There was a game, that one I played with a pony, that platformer, that because it is multiplayer required, it basically gave everyone 2 keys when they bought 1 copy. But again, that's because the game literally couldn't be played single player.
Well, I mean, that's multiplayer as a whole. I don't know how to say that last word.
Let's see.
Ooey.
I think I had those too, rats. Somewhere here. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else major. We talked about content. We talked about growing. Oh, another thing I think to keep in mind when it comes to content, you need to be careful. As I said a few minutes ago about evergreen content, you have to worry about limited content, as in something that only applies to the people who are currently playing the game. This is where that economic model comes into play. If you release something that is only good for 2 weeks of play, then that's not going to help you a year down the road.
Well, it could potentially, and it wouldn't help it on its own. But if you did that every week kind of thing for all the weeks kind of thing, then that content did help you along the ways because that spike multiplied another spike, which multiplied another spike. Because these spikes are multipliers if you can stack a spike on top of a spike. And it all depends on how much work it actually took to make that spike. If it's something you could do in like a day's worth of work kind of thing, then you could potentially release spikes like that every week kind of thing. And if every spike is good for 2 weeks kind of thing, then you can release a spike that releases on top of another spike that releases on top of another spike, and you can get that long-term numbers kind of thing, which those long-term numbers can grow other stuff. But again, that's a big asterisk on how long it takes you to make it kind of thing. And can and will you stack those spikes on top of each other kind of thing?
Yeah. Well, what I'm specifically talking about is gameplay related content, such as the League of Legends or character model, where you're releasing a new character every week or a new card, and things basically get superseded by the latest and newest hotness.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an issue Hearthstone runs into, that right now, if you want to play Hearthstone, the base content in that game is just horrible, because everything that's came, or whatever is the current deck in Hearthstone, the current pack, is what people are going to be using, because that's the current best stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what ends up happening, as Ratio just said, is you have that power creep issue. And this is why onboarding is such a big point. That you need to be monitoring, what does the early, mid, and late game of my game looks like. And you have to be careful not to, cross the streams in that aspect.
Yeah. And the thing is you have to be able to deal with that power creep or stop it completely. Because here's the thing. This is like one of the secrets to Magic the Gathering and Hearthstone for that matter. They cycle out cards every 2 years. Every 2 years there's a set that becomes not playable in standard tournaments. I know in Magic you can play it in, unstandard tournaments because I don't know about Hearthstone, but which is very good with Magic because you don't want to be like, hey, you bought all these cards, but now they're completely useless to you. You still want to give them a use to their cards kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk specifically about Magic the Gathering. So when they out the cards kind of thing, there's still other gameplay modes where you can use those cards kind of thing, like Commander and all this other stuff kind of thing. Where, and what they do is every 2 years that happens kind of thing. And when they do that, then that means all of that power scope that was in there is out kind of thing. And, they're freeing up space for the other one. So they can always kind of somewhat manage that power creep throughout there because everything's going to cycle out in 2 years kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And, bans on certain cards if they happen to be OP kind of thing, or, manual adjustments kind of thing, which is hard to do on physical things, a lot easier to do with digital kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But you can deal with that power creep kind of thing. And having the cards cycle out every 2 years, what that does is when a new player joins kind of thing, they don't have to worry about buying, let's say somebody joins Magic the Gathering now. Magic's been what, like open, they've been doing their card game has existed for what, like 25, 30 years?
Something like that.
You don't have to worry about this OP card from 25 years ago and go buy it kind of thing. Because only thing that matters is the latest 2 years. So yeah, you'll be, hard up on your first set kind of thing. Your first 3 months will be hard because you'll only have that one set kind of thing, the latest and greatest kind of thing. But the latest and greatest gives you the latest and greatest, but it won't give you the things that combo with it. And then you stay on for the next, you get more, you stay on for the next, you get more, stay on for the next, you get more. And then by that point, when you go up to that next set, everything behind you falls off, basically. So you have, at that point, all the possible cards that everybody else does after 1 year. In theory, if you join at the right point, you have all that. If you join, at the wrong point, you're maybe, still a couple sets out kind of thing. But like you're getting caught up really quickly, and it helps that bringing into the community, and it helps people not feel alienated for the entire time they're playing. They're alienated for the first set, but then the second they're getting in there. Third, they're getting pretty comfortable. Fourth, they're downright comfortable. Fifth, they're right in there with everybody else. They're the equal.
You need to be really careful that you don't want somebody new joining your game and feeling like they're completely worthless when they play the game because they don't have the latest stuff. Because that's another easy way to kill your community is by making the game so horrible for new players unless they spend money.
And cycling out those cards allows you to, be more friendly to new players. That's the reason why they call it standard tournaments. And that's the reason why they do it, is to be more friendly to new players, because they don't have to catch up for 17 years. They only have to catch up for 2 years, and by the time they do it for 1 year kind of thing, the other year falls off, and they're now caught up kind of thing. Now, it still takes a year to fall off kind of thing, so, they are behind for a while. But that said, is when they join, the cards they'll be buying most likely will be from the newest and greatest set kind of thing, which will then put them on on the cards they have are on the top side of that power creep kind of thing. But that doesn't work so well as, the other stuff. Yeah, Continuum won't rotate until it probably hits a year or 2 years. I haven't figured out if I'm going, which kind of cycle I'm going to run at. But like, there's all this stuff that, that goes into the design of that game that is keeping it friendly to new players kind of thing.
And again, you need to do that. Your game should always be able to be inviting to a new player. Because this, again, falls into that downward spiral effect. That if you only care about how your level 60 or your max rank people are playing your game, it means you are losing new players. Now, again, you can have your, let's say we're going in an MMO example. Level 1 to level 60. You can have your level 1 to level 30 be completely set and fixed if that is enjoyable. Like, if nobody's complaining about that, it's as great as it's going to be, lock it down and never touch it again. But you don't want to be making your game feel like, okay, I start playing the game and it's horrible, but maybe once I get to level 60, it'll be this amazing game. It's the Death Stranding example, when the real game begins at hour 35 of that game.
Yeah. And you also do not want to feed your newbies to your pros.
Yep.
You don't want to have your level 1s be, plankton that your level 60 whales eat. Because if you have the the whales eat the newbies kind of thing, then your game is doomed, because the fact is that means no new players will join your game basically.
Yeah.
Past a certain level, and all you have is the players that are already high level, and they're going to run out of food, and then they're going to start eating on each other. It's let's just say like it's dinosaur example kind of thing. If all the all the meat eaters kind of thing, all the carnivores start eating all the herbivores, and there's no the herbivores that exist are the only ones that can get grass kind of thing. Any of the new ones can't get any grass kind of thing. So they're instantly they're going to die within a couple of days kind of thing. So you only have the herbivores that are there, the ones that come in and die instantly, and you have the carnivores. Well, the carnivores are going to eat all the new ones that come in. They're going to also eat, they're going to run out of those, and they're going to eat the carnivore, the herbivores that are still there. They're going to go kind of thing, and then there's going to be no herbivores at all kind of thing. And then the carnivores are going to start attacking the lesser carnivores. They're going to all be gone. And then those are going to attack then the biggest ones are going to attack the medium ones. They're all going to go. And then the absolutely massive ones are going to be attacking the big ones kind of thing. And they're going to be gone. And at that point, you got like 2 dinosaurs left, and they battle to the death. And one of them lives and one of them dies. And the other one has insane injuries and dies right after. And there's 0 people left, 0 dinosaurs left, and you never want to feed your new players to your
and you need to have contingency plans in place for if you can't get the proper matchmaking. Brazio mentioned ranked matching, which is ranked matchmaking, which is a really good example. But I played a PvP only game. This was on the PlayStation 4 PSN. And what happened was the only way you can literally make progress is you have to fight against another player. And there were no players at my level. So I literally couldn't progress anymore in this game because it was basically, here's all the level 1 players, and then here's all the level 70 players, and there's nobody in between. Mm-hmm. And even if that game is pulling in money, people are still playing it, that's a dead game because nobody is joining that community.
Which is the reason why games like that create new servers every day. Because they know that the game's going to be dead, and they're just they're going ahead and
it's a race of whoever can put the most money in first on the new server.
And yeah, I mean, like, I don't think you want to have whales fighting small fish. What you want to do is have whales fighting whales. You want ranked matching. You don't want to, you don't want to give an instant win to one thing or another kind of thing. But, if you design things well kind of thing, like I'm aiming to do, it doesn't matter if you have, my aim for my game is it doesn't matter if you have all the cards or none of the cards kind of thing. What matters is strategy kind of thing. Now, having more cards opens up more potential strategies. But, you could have all the cards in the world and put all the best cards in a deck kind of thing, and your deck sucks kind of thing because the starter deck's better. Because it's designed better. You're better at strategy by just running the stock deck than it is to run the deck that has all of these extra rares. Like think about Magic the Gathering. Think about if you were run a deck and every card in your deck costed 9+ mana to get out kind of thing, and you just have to sit there and take it, until you get up to 9 mana. You're not going to live to get 9 mana to play your first monster, but even if you can somehow manage to live that long kind of thing, because all they have to do is place out a 1 and just start hitting you every turn, and then place out another 1 on the next turn and start hitting you every turn, and by the, you're 1 HP by the time you get to turn 9. Without them doing anything else on any of their other turns kind of thing. But the thing is, if you have that hard strategy base kind of thing to where it doesn't matter, exactly how many cards you have, it matters the strategy, then there is a lot more potential for whales to fight fish, because the fact is you don't do it based, you don't match them based off of the number of cards they have. You base them off of ranks kind of thing. This is their number of wins and losses. This is their performance. This is how they did against this level of player. This is how they did against this level of player. So they're always fighting players on their level kind of thing. And when they're playing players on their own level, it doesn't matter if that player has, just a starter deck or all the cards that exist kind of thing. Because skill level wise and deck construction wise, they are on the same level. So they have a good competitive match. Because, when you look at card games and everything, your best games aren't the ones where the opponent was never a challenge and you just walked all over them kind of thing. Your best matches are when it's close and tense the entire way through, and then at the end something amazing happens. You heart of the cards, and you just completely annihilate the person after that point kind of thing. A strategy that you were building to, and you finally got the last key to pull it off kind of thing. And it just completely overwhelms your players, But, the second best one would be the tight match that maybe doesn't come with a creaming at the end, but just comes with a win at the end kind of thing.
And this is, again, the issue you have when it comes to how you treat your player base and how you treat your matchmaking or your content. Because one of the issues that we see from a lot of these games that become, multi-year projects, especially in the mobile space, somebody new starts, they're going to lose not because of skill, but because everybody has the new hotness or the quote-unquote best characters. This is an issue that Marvel Strike Force just ran into the ground, in my opinion, where they just kept releasing new meta. So a new player who starts playing is completely screwed because the basic characters are worthless.
Yeah, that's a pay-to-win model. And the pony's saying, no, that's not what we're saying. We're saying the opposite of that. We want to tie it to ranks, not what they have. Basically play
how well they can use that versus how much they have.
Basically, you want to tie players to how good they are. Basically, if you want to tie a sucky player to a sucky player so that they both feel good when the match ends, because either they barely lost or they barely won, more than likely, kind of thing. And you want to tie the good players to the good players so that they barely win. A close victory, you want to have as close a victory as you can. Because the best matches are the most intense ones. And the most intense ones are the ones where you're going up against somebody of your skill level kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now then, if you have a more, less strategy balanced game, then, that of course means that, the more power they have, the better they are kind of thing, because somebody with a plus 50 against a plus 1 is going to absolutely massacre them. But somebody with a plus 50 against a plus 49 kind of thing, they're going to stand a chance kind of thing. And it's going to be a close match.
And you need to be very careful. Again, here's to Rat's comment about Yoam Ranks was building a team isn't perfect. You need to be careful with how you measure skill in your game. Because one thing that I see some games do is that they will reset season play. That is, when you go from season 1 to season 2, all the, let's say it's rank points. So let's say everyone who has 1,000 rank points at the end of season 1, they go back down to 0. But guess what happens? Those quote-unquote zeros are going to be matched with people who are actually level 0, who just started playing the game. And you're going to run into that case where they will still, devour the newer players. That happened to me with Hearthstone. That I remember I started playing the game, and I supposedly was fighting somebody who was my rank, and every turn for like 6 turns, they pulled out a legendary card. Mm-hmm. It was made like the Yu-Gi-Oh example where I start playing and the guy just keeps throwing a blue-eyed white dragons at me. And it's like, how was I supposed to even win this? You know, I'm on the barest of the bare starter deck, and you have 7 legendary cards in your deck. I mean, it was literally every turn. It's like, I do this cool move. Here's a legendary. Okay, I barely survived. Here's another legendary.
Yeah. And the other problem I ran into this on Magic the Gathering is, like, they tie all the decks together. You know, they change all your matchmaking together. So, like, if you're completely winning on this one deck and you're just owning everything, and then you build this new deck kind of thing, and it's untested. You go out and test it, you're getting absolutely massacred because all these players, you know, you're matching against people who were playing your other deck kind of thing. And you know, what I plan on doing with that is having several different rankings kind of thing. And, you know, it kind of meshes those rankings. You know, there's player skill kind of thing, which will be based off your wins and losses total kind of thing, you know, and what level of players you were against when you won or lost kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to be, the other one is a deck ranking, you know, so a brand new deck is going to have a, you know, ranking of 0 kind of thing, where a deck that's had repeated victories kind of thing will have a lot higher rank. So like these two kind of combine into your skill total for that one match kind of thing, for that next match kind of thing. And then that keeps on growing kind of thing, where you swap to a deck that you've never used, you know, brand new deck kind of thing, then you're going to, you know, have lower scale opponents kind of thing, because you don't need to be taking a brand new deck against, you know, top players if you're a top player in, you know, other decks kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like having a deck ranking as well as the other. And you know, when people modify their deck, that needs to be taken into effect on that deck ranking too. You know, how many cards do they change? You know, this kind of thing. You know, how much impact is this going to change on that deck? And, you know, because like, again, you don't need to take it down to 0 and reset it kind of thing, but you do need to take it probably down some, or at least put them one at that same level and see if it's better or worse kind of thing, to which way you need to adjust them kind of thing. And I'm unsure which way we're going to do. Either take them down a little bit, take them up a little bit, or leave them where they are and do for one match kind of thing. But, you know, you need to take that into account when they adjust a deck kind of thing. Mm-hmm. You know, or when they clone a deck and then make a, you know, that needs to clone the rating kind of thing, and then modify it based off of whatever changes they make to it. Because sometimes people want to keep their deck the way it is in case they mess it up kind of thing, and they clone it, and then they modify that clone deck, and you want to bring that score over with it and then apply the modifier to it.
Yeah, and again, like LO matchmaking, that's another topic in of itself. That's definitely off what we're talking about tonight.
Although it does apply, because it applies to keeping, you know, allowing you to grow your player base kind of thing. Because if you're, again, crapping on your lowest levels of players, your new players kind of thing, then you're never going to get anywhere. Your game is dead.
But I think I'm about out of topics, at least like big ones we can switch to. Do you have any other points about this you want to bring up?
Well, one thing we didn't talk about, and this is a big one, and it's, you know, big enough for another topic kind of thing, but we can hit on it a little bit, you know, in a minimum sense, is marketing. Because, like, you need to be marketing and bringing in new players. Your marketing does not stop when you release a game, especially for a live service. Especially for a live service. If anything, marketing kicks up after you release for a live service kind of thing. And you need to bring in marketing to bring in the people to play your multiplayer game.
Yeah, and this is why you need, when you're doing a live service or very mobile, not mobile, very multiplayer oriented game, you need a PR manager or a PR community director. You need people out there getting the word for your game. Like, this is what with Fall Guys, and you saw all the postings they were doing. They were posting weird gifs, crazy memes and stuff like that. It may sound hokey, but that is getting eyes on this game. Kid Fox did this. I think Victoria, who went to Among Us, I think she's working for Inner Sloth, was kind of the head of Kid Fox's social or their outreach there. And again, it's all about this momentum. You don't want people to forget about your game.
You got to stay relevant.
Yep. And if that means, I'm sure a few people are putting out Bernie Sanders memes right now for their game. That's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. And you always got to stay relevant, because the second you're not relevant, your game is good as dead at that point.
Yeah, and again,
that seems to be where Among Us is going right now.
Yeah,
because of their lack of updates, because of their lack of much of anything, kind of thing, they're becoming irrelevant, kind of thing. YouTubers are stopped streaming their game so much. Like I know, like Jacksepticeye, who I watch, one of the only popular YouTuber I watch. He used to stream, Among Us every week, every day, kind of thing, or make a video on it every day. But now I think I've seen like one Among Us from him, like maybe every week, kind of thing. And probably in a month, you'll probably only see one every other week. And you give it another month, kind of thing, you'll probably see one a month. You give it another month, and you'll probably see zero. Unless they do something to make themselves relevant.
And again, it's all about that momentum. Because once people stop caring about your game, it's going to become hard, if not impossible, to get them to start caring again. And like we said, with the merry-go-round analogy, that it's better to be putting out consistent little updates, little pushes to keep that momentum, rather than going for all-in major plays. The fact that Among Us went over a year without a major update or any major announcement, that, again, I hate to be mean, but I don't understand how they expect that game to be a success.
Well, I think the game had already failed at that point, and they knew it failed, and they just went on to the sequel, kind of thing. But then when they all of a sudden started seceding, they were caught, with their pants down, basically, rightfully so, because nobody expected the game to do anything at that point. But they didn't get into it and just start really going on it, kind of thing. And that's kind of where like if they don't, they've already they've already lost a good bit of their fan base, kind of thing. And if they don't get on it soon, they're going to lose all of it. Among Us is going to be another dead game, kind of thing.
Or the other thing that will happen is somebody's going to come on and do what Fortnite did to PUBG. They're going to be the superior example of that game, and they're going to take all the press and all the buzz, and Among Us is going to be left by the wayside.
There's already 5 billion, Among Us clones.
Although when we looked at it 2 weeks ago.
I mean, even Jacksepticeye streamed several of them,
Yeah.
And, instead of Among Us.
Everybody's trying to catch that next wave.
And
once you've been left behind, you're not going to make up for that. Because even if Among Us releases a new map now, it's not going to bring back that surge that happened in August and September. I can guarantee that.
No, it'll bring back some people, but it's not going to bring back nowhere near as many people because they've lost some momentum, kind of thing. They've cut their total size, kind of thing. So like they're down at much lower numbers, and a spike now is not going to add to the spike they had before because they're already off of that spike. They're not only already off that spike, but they're out of relevance, kind of thing.
That's not what you want to happen with a multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, there are many different strategies you can employ to keep that momentum. You can have, fan art contests. You can have, again, like gotcha banners every week or every 2 weeks. You can have collab events. It's up to your only limit is your imagination when it comes to some of these things. But the important thing, you have to keep it going because that's how these games live or die. There's a reason why World of Warcraft, even though it has been on the decline, still brings in tons and tons of money because they have never let that audience, go for a long amount of time without any content. They just keep throwing bones at them.
Yeah. They need to start throwing phones at them. Because I don't think enough of them have phones.
No. But I think this will probably be a good point to wrap things up. We have other topics that are related to this, but we can certainly bring that up for future shows. So, hold on one second. I think my phone is ringing. Hopefully, it won't be too bad in the background. But to begin to wrap things up, momentum is key when it comes to sustaining and growing a fan base. You need to be able to plan this out while still having, like the safety net of your early game. You want to make sure that people can join your game at any point in its live service or post release, and they can enjoy your title. Because if they can't, they are not going to stick around.
Yep.
I guess anything else you want to throw in before we wrap it up?
I think we can wrap it up. I mean, there's definitely stuff we could go into, but not without completely.
Another hour.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
So it's probably a good time to cut it.
All right. So my final question for those of you watching this live recording, you can leave these in the comments down below. Going to the witness is: can you think of live service games that you played that just at some point you just said enough is enough, and you pulled the ripcord and you never went back to it? And can you think of a game that you did end up going back to it, let's say after a year or two away? And if you did do that, how long did you spend playing it on that, the second revival of it?
Mm-hmm. That would be every free-to-play game I ever played. And I never went back to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
The ones I stopped, I never started back.
Yeah.
The ones I was already on and really into, I, started new servers and whatnot and kept on going. But then once I got out, I was gone from all servers. Yeah. I thought I was going to go back. I went into vacation mode, intending to go back, kind of thing. And, found out that my life was a lot better without that game and never went back. Kind of thing. And that's something you don't want them to. You don't want the game to be a slog on your player base to where if they stop playing for a week or whatever, they realize their life is better without the game, kind of thing. You want the game to remain fun for players. As for me, I am currently in the market for a new programmer because sadly last night I lost my programmer. And yeah, if any of you are a programmer or know a programmer that would like to work on Neon Continuum, and have them get in touch with me. I am definitely looking for somebody new.
Yeah. And
What happened to them? Well, I don't know how much I can say
yeah,
exactly, but
you may not want to get too much into that one here.
let me put it this way. They they were always working multiple jobs, kind of thing, but they got another job, and this job requires them to not work on anything else,
Do not
even
compete
even things for
clauses.
themselves. They can't work on a personal project. They can't work on anything but that other job.
Mm-hmm.
And they've already signed the contract before they even found out that they couldn't do that. So yeah, so
Yeah.
they can't work on it anymore. We're splitting on good terms. He's a great guy and everything. I loved working with him, and I look forward to working with him again, hopefully in the future, kind of thing. But
Mm-hmm.
for now, it's not a possibility, and I have to find somebody else. And even after he told me that kind of thing, he continued working on the game, kind of thing. And he's trying to get me, he's trying to get everything uploaded and everything because what he wants, and he decided, he told me that don't even pay him, kind of thing. Like he won't accept any money, kind of thing, because he didn't deliver on what he intended on doing. But yeah, it's sad that it has to come like that, but it's a it happens, kind of thing. So there's absolutely no hard feelings. There's a lot of good feelings for him because
Mm-hmm.
I will miss working with him. He was great to work with, but I need somebody else, kind of thing, to take up the slack. The multiplayer system's already in there. The deck system's already in there. The hand is already in there. There still needs to be some polish on the hand. Lots of things with a few things left with the core gameplay loop left to get a demo out. Like placing stuff on the grid. Discard
Mm-hmm.
piles. The actual combat, which is just greater than, less than. With stats 1 through 9, pretty pretty easy to implement, kind of thing. A lot of pretty easy to implement things left, kind of thing, and polish for those things, as well as other stuff like deck builders and main menus and all this other stuff, options. And there's still a lot of work to do, but there's not a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things to do to get the demo, to get a prototype, but there's not a lot of work to get to that point.
All right.
um but yeah, I'm looking for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. So
And
with that said, I think it's time we can begin to wrap things up.
yep.
But if you do want to continue these conversations, you can join our respective Discord channels. I do have a post your work as well as a job board posting on the Game Wisdom Discord.
Yeah, which I will be posting there hopefully
Mm,
later today. I
yeah.
forgot about that, so I need to take advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. And if you have a suggestion for a topic for a future show, please leave it in the comments or post it in one of our respective Discord channels. If you are working on a game that you'd like me to take a look at for my weekly showcase streams, please get in touch. And Chuck and I have our new show, Indie Inquiries, on Thursday afternoons, where we review a Steam store page, or actually any indie game store page, and offer our advice. And if you'd like us to critique yours, again, please reach out.
Yeah,
But
and you can check out the Indie Inquiry and the Safely Stream podcast both on Josh's channel and my channel.
mm-hmm,
And you can subscribe to my channel. Links to all my that down below. On both of our channels, you'll find links to the other's YouTube channel, both of our
mm-hmm,
Discord channels, both of our Twitters, etc. All the links will be down in the description, and definitely join both of our Discords, kind of thing. That's the best place to connect with us. And
mm-hmm,
you can ask me for advice. I'm sure you can ask Josh for advice. Josh has answered
mm-hmm.
advice many times in his Discord. I know that.
Oh yes.
So
And we will be back again next Sunday around 4:30 for our live show here, and Thursdays around 3:30 for the Indie Inquiries.
hmm
Yes. Oh, and do all the liking, subscribing, all that. Again, YouTube, social media stuff that people seem to like to mention.
yeah. And I hate mentioning it, but we have to.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, with that said, I will be back later for my nightly streams. And when do you do your stream, Shark?
So we have our Indie Inquiries and Safely Stream podcasts on those times, which we've already gone over. And then we have game streams on Tuesdays at 2 Central Time. Same time as the Indie Inquiries when Josh isn't late. Mm-hmm. And the which is never. and and we have the dev streams where you get to sit there and watch me make Neon Continuum and work on it and ask me any questions and give feedback and all that kinds of stuff on Fridays at 2 p.m. Central.
All right. So with that said, we will be back next week for another discussion about game design, and come back for daily discussions on that here and on Game Wisdom, where examine the art and science of games. Have a great night, everybody, and we will see you next time.
See ya.